It really is pretty cool to see how big these baby cows get. This guy almost dinner size. This is a baby that was born here that I don't know what it is, but it's just the coolest of the coolest to be able to be out here to watch everything just keep on growing and doing what it needs to do. Such an absolute blessing to be around. I would hope that more people were able to figure out how to be able to get yourself into a situation to be able to be around some animals, be around something. This is, to me, what is something that is substantial value, that it keeps going and going. It's gonna die one day, but it's gonna die to be able to give a way back, to be able to do something amazing, and not just something to rust, something to just fall apart, something to, in reality, if anything were to happen, you had something to be able to survive off of. You can't do that in reality with any sort of like gold or cars or houses, any of that. You can do that with some property to put some animals onto that property, but if you don't have any animals on that property, it's kind of, what are you doing with it? What's going on? And it just puts a lot in me to just, I don't know why, but working this and being out here and playing with this and figuring out how to be able to get them to calm down and relax has been something to really figure out how to be able to get my own self to calm down and relax. Because when I first got these cows and put them out here, it was just a bull at first, and he was frantic. He was just on the move, on the go. And it's something that I was forced in reality to be out here to do what it is that I do. That I had a calling in me that was just like, get up, let's get going, let's get doing this. And it's something that's been able to keep me on my toes, to be able to just move forward in life, because where I was very destructive, very just lonely is really one thing that I can say for a fact of how it was. It was just, it felt meaningless. Then I started to get more animals and start to play with them, and I started to find more meaning. And then when I started to find that more meaning, I started to find even more meaning. It was just an avalanche of things that started going down to be able to allow me to be able to do what it is that I'm able to do right now, with being able to set this camera up, being able to speak a specific message, to be able to hopefully help out someone other than just my own self, to be able to let you know that I know things are hard and things are challenging and things are super stressful, but it doesn't have to remain that way. There's a way to be able to get out of that and be able to get away from that. I'm not saying that you're going to live in a life that everything is so perfect, because there's no such thing. Even where we go next is still not so perfect. There's still going to be some things that we're going to have to deal with, that we're going to have to figure out how to be able to get through our problems here now, so that when we move to the next, we don't so much as have such difficulty. Because I don't know, people. The more and more I keep on working out here and doing what I'm doing, the more and more I realize that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be staying busy with doing some sort of work. I just was reading through the book of 2 Kings and the 1 Kings today, and just realizing that there's some people that are called to do some magnificent things that God is looking for. He always gives the analogy of there's some I don't want to misrepresent the word, so I'm going to use a completely different sense here. There's some items that we eat from, that we use, that are just everyday use. And there's some items that the potter man, the clay man, puts together that are for very special uses. And it says, why wouldn't you think that God would have such a thing? That there's some that are just for ordinary use and some for very, very exponential, amazing uses. But it's not for us to be able to make that decision what it is that we want it to be. It's for God to put it in us, to tell us what it is that we are going to be. And just reading that book just really let me know and realize like what it's like to be underneath a, say, good king, a good rulership, something that is nice and calm and safe. Because in the land of when Samson was king, it was peace. There was no fighting. There was no wars. There's no anything. Everyone was just busy. And he had so much that he had to do, because he had to build this kingdom. He had to build his temple. He had to build his house. And he just had people out, and they were just out working, building, doing, going, busy, and just in reality loving life doing that. That I don't know what it was like 100 years ago in the United States of America or anywhere in the world, if the work was just fun and it was exciting and you liked it and you enjoyed it and you went home and you had fun with your family and you were able to just really have a good time. Or was it just as stressful as it is today, that we like to just think that things in the past were better? I don't know. It's just, I would really, if I could time travel, there's certain specific times that I would try time travel to really try to get a good look at the general approach, the everyone approach. Not just how the king was living. We all know that the king of everywhere. You're a good king, a bad king, you're living good. It doesn't matter. But it's something of a matter of how is everybody, how is the person of me, my role, my stance where I'm supposed to be. The busybody worker that's working under the king to get done what it is I need to get done. How is my role? And me being able to understand and accept that role, realizing that that is my role. My role isn't to be the ruler of the land. My role isn't to be the one to dictate and how to do. And my role isn't to control millions of people and tell them where to go and how to get stuff done. And my role isn't to something that I had in my brain for a very long time of trying to create so much work so that I can give hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs so people could be working. It's not my role. My role is to do something completely different. That when I was trying to go at that role, I was running into problems, complications, just a lot of madness, just horrible. My mind was just going too much. It was not flowing the way that it should be flowing. And there's some people that do that, and they're supposed to do that, and need to do that, need to step up to the plate to do that, knowing that you have that inside of you to do. And there's other people that just not say follow, but do what it is that you need to do. Because when there's good times, people were doing what they were good at, what God put into them to be able to do. If they were good with wood, they were working wood. They were building stuff. They were building structures. They were doing what they were doing. That's what they were doing. They weren't going over there and playing with the masonry guys. No, the masonry guys were the masonry guys. The jewelry making people, the jewelry. The perfume people, the perfume. The spices people, the spice people. We did what we absolutely enjoyed doing. That's where I would say you're going to be able to have the best time on life. But in reality, that's not what we're doing today. And I know that's why I think that we're struggling the most today as opposed to ever before, because we're not doing anything that we want. We're doing things because we have to and we don't have a choice. And that's just so challenging. And things, when they have to be done, it gets complicated. And that's the story I want to talk about today, is going a story before the story of yesterday. I'm talking about Jacob. And was it Jacob? Yeah, talking about Jacob and everything that's going on. To just bring it back a little bit, talking about Joseph. And bring it back a little bit to Jacob and him and his wives and his kids and how all that went about, and why Jacob's sons were divided. They were just divided, and why they plotted to kill one of the younger brothers. Why they had it in them that they hated this specific one. Why they just disliked them to the point that they wanted to kill him. Like they did in reality kill him, because they came back to the father and said that he died. So they did do that, and there was so much strife going on. There's so much chaos, and it's such an interesting thing, because I don't know, people. Chaos starts right away in the family, and then it starts to spread out and go out. I would say that there's not one family that's been in existence and out here that's just perfect and it's just good to go and everything is great and everything is awesome. There's some stuff going on in there that is just maddening, and this Bible really talks a lot about that. And in reality, this Bible talks a lot about today, in the beginning, because in the beginning, there was more of multiple wives and multiple servants having king's kids, and women were having more than one husband's kids, and guys were having more than one women's kids. And it kind of sounds like today, where there was a time and a period that was like almost unacceptable, unallowed, very, very frowned upon. If a woman had a kid with two different guys, or a guy had two different, especially if a guy had more than one woman having his kids, you were looked very, very frowned upon. Not even like 20, 30 years ago, especially 30 years ago. And oh my goodness, 100 years ago, that's like almost stoned to death type information that was going on. That a man only had one woman, and that woman had his kids. If you had more, there was something sticky going on. So it's interesting that the beginning of the Bible and how we were with relationships and kids is how we are today. And if there was problems going on then, I'm going to guarantee you that there's problems going on today. Because today we're going to talk about the book of Genesis again. It's very interesting because the book of Genesis has a lot. I'm telling you, it's got a lot in here. It's got so much. It's not just about how God created the earth and the heavens and the people and the stars and the seas and the plants and the animals and everything. He did all that. But he did all that really in this book, written-wise, fast track. Because he's got a lot to get to go on to be able to actually really help us out more. Giving us the land and letting us live here was one thing when we were away from sin, when we didn't eat from the tree that we were forbidden to eat from. That would have been good enough. But since we had to do some things to change away from that, we need way more instruction on how to be able to just survive on this planet, as opposed to what the magnificentness that he actually built out here. Because for me, I'd like to see a new book, another book, hopefully in the future to come, the day that I pass away and move on, the next book is the opposite of this book, where the book goes more into the creation. How is this? Why did the ants that? Why is this needed? Why does this break down like that? Why did you create that bird to do that? That's something that, I don't know, that's the future that hopefully I would be able to see that book, as opposed to figuring out how to be able to survive on this land. That I would hope that in the next stage, we will already figure out how to be able to deal with each other. We don't have these problems. We don't have this anger and this jealousy and this rage and this just evilness. We could just let that go. We could just get the hatred out. That we could just look at each other and just have some fun and figure out more about this land, because the way that this earth is spectacular. But when we think about Jacob, we think about an interesting feller that did a lot of interesting things. And as much as you could look at any person in this book, let me just say, character. None of them are perfect. They did a whole lot of good, but they did some bad here and there. And it's very amazing to me, because every time, like even David, I was reading more about the King David today, and I'm just like, but he did some pretty bad things that he shouldn't have done. But we talk about all the great stuff, but I think it's fascinating that in this Bible, it doesn't just only say how people are just so perfect. Because even stories with Jesus, he did some things that were just forward, very, very bold, very just showing expressiveness, not just everyone's just peace and love. No, he came to temples and was throwing things and yelling at folks, and it just shows that every single person that walks this land, we all have these issues, and it's a matter of us to figure out how to be able to manage those issues so that we can be able to have a better, more smooth time on this planet. So every time you read about somebody, you can read all the good, but there's also is bad in there. And that's something that I've noticed a lot with this YouTube stuff, that the more and more, say, recognition you get, the more and more people want to just start to, look, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you missaid this and you missaid that. And it's an amazing thing, because when you understand that we're not perfect and we're not going to be, it really just relaxes you. So you can just say what you say and do what you do and move on with what you need to move on with. But I want to go to Jacob, because he ends up having to leave his mother and father, because he ends up taking the blessing from his brother Esau. And it was all planned to be this way. The younger was supposed to be the ruler of the older. And it was all planned, and his mama Rachel already knew it all beforehand. And she set it all up, and she made it happen. And she, whatever it is, she liked him more. And it straight up says it just like that as well again, that our parents, not saying that they like one over the other, but there's some things that are like the pot more, that the other just isn't about. And then the other will start to get a little jealous. And so they got into a jealousy rage that his brother was planning on killing him. So his mom was like, get out of here. Go see, I think it's her brother. Yeah, her brother. Go to my brother's land. Go over there. Hang out over there. Let your brother calm down. And then we figure this out later on. So he goes over there. So Jacob, in the Genesis, chapter 29, down to the verse 14. And Jacob stayed with Laban for a whole month. And Laban said, just because you're a relative of mine, should you work for nothing? Tell me what your wages are. Now Laban had 2 daughters, and the name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was very beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your daughter Rachel. And Laban said, it'd be better, on verse 19, Laban said, it's better that I give her to you and then some other man. Stay here and work with me. So Jacob, stay here with me. So Jacob served him 7 years to get Rachel, and what seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. And then in the 21st verse, it said, Jacob, give me Laban, give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her. So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when the evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob made love to her. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, what have you done to me? You have, what does it say? You have served me with Rachel. I have served you for Rachel. Why have you deceived me? And he said, it's not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, and then we'll give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years a week. And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. I don't know why, but this just, oh man, this Bible really makes me makes me laugh inside and gets me excited sometimes. And it lets me realize that, you know, when you back in it, I don't know how old you have to be to really know this TV show of the Jerry Springer. But I know everybody that was born in the 80s for 100% fact knows that TV show. And when we would watch that TV show, you would just laugh and you would see some interesting stuff. And it's not funny today to me anymore, but it was definitely funny at that time of just seeing that. And I think the main reason that we all would all laugh, because what was going on there is actually going on in your family. It's actually like in face to face with you. You just didn't want to say it. You just didn't want to speak it out loud. You just wanted to act like, that's just dumb. That's not us. And it really was us. It really was stuff that was going on. There really was this bickering going on and all these battles that we just kind of, it was on the quietness about it. We didn't really put it up out there, as if the TV show just put it all out there for us to see. So this right here is really some Jerry Springer TV show type stuff that really does happen, that's really going on, where this man says, yeah, I'll give you my daughter. And then he says, you know what? You could do all this work for me, I'll give it to you. And then he says, now hold on. My other one didn't, so I'm gonna make you take that one and then take this one, and then you go work for me some more. This is some serious like manipulation beyond manipulation. That's just so ruthless. That this is the concept of when I was saying that when a person has God's favor in them, because Jacob's got God's favor right away, the whole time from birth, from going on. When you got God's favor, people, there's two sides of the people that are going to attach to you. The people that are going to say, let's work together because I see that everything that you work with me together is growing and booming. And then there's the other people that see it and then just want to take it from you. And this guy here is a guy that just wanted to take everything he would just want to take everything from him. He saw Jacob being able to do some amazing things. And he saw him do amazing things for 7 years for him. He saw all his flocks increase. He saw everything prosper and get so much better around him. And he said to himself, I can't let this guy go. And then he brought his daughter, the other one, to him. And then he manipulated him, cheated him to, let me get another 7 years out of this guy because I want to keep this guy around. He's doing so great for me. He's just really making everything around my life so much better. So he put him into some trickery. And then Jacob, being Jacob, he says, man, I really want this girl. She's just fantastic. I want to marry this girl. So he says, I'll do it. And I'll make that happen. So then he works and he does make that happen. And then this is where stuff gets very, very, very interesting, because this is the part where we can't control what our parents are doing before we were birthed and when we did come out and everything is going on. We can't control any of that. And we don't know what our parents were thinking when we were conceived and when everything was going down. And this is where, for me, I have a very good understanding of why the brothers were all fighting, and then why the brothers were fighting against the younger two in specific and the younger one in specific, or the second to last in specific, Joseph. I can see exactly why, based on how the parents were bickering and fighting. The parents were having issues. The parents were having drama. The parents were just having a negative situation towards each other. And for me, I got personal experience with this. With one over the other is just wanting to fight this one, fight that one, talk about this one, talk about that one. I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's like my life is right here in this book, reading it right here, right now. And it's just a very interesting thing. But it's something right here that I'm going to read here. So we're still in the same chapter, and we're going to go down, so we're in 29. We're going to go down to the 31st verse, and it says, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Because Jacob loved Rachel. He was like all about her. And everyone knew about it and everyone saw about it, clearly, if God's going to straight up say, this is what's going on. And it says, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. He was Reuben. And it said, it is because the Lord saw my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. And this is something that is devastating, because this is something that I have seen and witnessed my own self in my own life. And I've seen and heard about this many times. Just because someone gives you a kid doesn't mean that they're going to care about you more. In reality, they might not want you even more at that point because of what you have done. Almost like some trickery in a way of trying to think that if you have a child, that now he's going to care about you. Now he's going to want to stay with you. Now he's going to keep on wanting to do more for you. And it's something that I don't know what it is, but this has been going on since day one, people. This has been going on forever. That just being a woman and having a man's kid doesn't mean that he's going to care about you more. Doesn't mean that he's going to love you more. Doesn't mean that he's going to give you any more respect. Doesn't mean that he's going to do anything extra for you. It just means that you have a kid now. And that goes by a fact of what's about to happen right next. He said, he'll love me more now. And then she conceived again and gave birth to Simon. And then she conceived again and gave birth to Levi. And he said, now At last my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Do you think that that happened? No, because again, she gave birth to another kid, the son, Judah. And then in Genesis 30, when Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous for her sister and said to Jacob, give me some children or I'll die. And Jacob became angry with her and said, why am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children? Then she said to her, here's my servant. Sleep with her so that I can bear children and he could start a family through her. And she became pregnant and bore him a son Dan. And then her servant gave another go at this and another child, Nepatile. I don't know. Some of these people's names are pretty cool, but it's like a little out there. But a lot of the first names are just names of today in reality. We're still using them. So it's very interesting that Rachel had it in herself of saying, man, I'm not having no kids. I can't stand that my sister's having all these kids. But even though all this time is going on that she's having all these children, she still knows for a fact that he doesn't care about her the same as he cares about me. And this woman is trying to have as many kids as possible. She's already 4 sons deep into this, thinking that, oh, he's going to love me more now. He's going to care about me more now. He's going to want me. He's going to do more for me. He's going to see me. He's going to value me. He's going to finally validate me in my life and my existence because I got these 4 kids. And you know what? That still just doesn't happen. And then once Rachel starts having some children through her servant, which still aren't her children, she starts to get a little big-headed, I guess, in a way, and starts to feel a little confident. And then her sister Leah starts to just get a little, I could play this game. And Leah saw that she stopped having children, and she took her servant now to have Jacob give her a son. And he called him Gad. That's a cool name. But and then Leah did it again a second time to have him have a son, and they called him Asher. And then, so she's got 6 kids, 4 kids of her own, 4 kids from her servant. And then Leah became pregnant again and gave a 5th son, Eskahar. And then she gave pregnant again and gave birth to Zebulon. And then she got pregnant and gave birth to a daughter, first girl, and the only girl in the whole flock here, Dinah. Do you think that after all these kids, that this man finally looked at her and said, I love you more than this other woman? Or do you think that he still just didn't care? Do you think that doing all this was going to get him into his graces? She just kept going and going and going and going and going and going and going. And then you know what was going and going in all this bickering, all this fighting, all this battling? The kids saw it. The kids were around it. The kids were growing up watching their mom, I guess you would call them both mom at that point if they're both married to him. But they're both looking at both of these women like, why are y'all yelling at each other? Why are y'all bickering with each other? Why are y'all fighting with each other? Why are y'all doing with each other? And then they're all gonna start to pick sides and pick teams. So then you're gonna have the kids that are gonna like be on mom's side and kids that are gonna be on, say, dad's side. And then you're gonna have kids that are just gonna be just bickering and battling the whole entire time. Kids that are just fighting because what's going on in the household? The parents are fighting. The family's fighting. And why would you expect anything different to come when that's going on? And it's something that is just so toxic and so damaging and so ruthless when you're out here trying to compete with each other as opposed to just trying to embrace each other. It's something that I don't know. This story right here is, I'm telling you today. It's today. A lot of guys today have, it's just an unfortunate but a fortunate thing. It depends on which way you look at it. A lot of guys today have more than one mother that's got their children. And and I know personally my own self, a whole bunch of them in reality. And then I know some that have children, and then the new person that they're with has already kids. So it's in reality, the other kids are going to look at those kids and say, hold on, you're taking care of those kids. You're not here with us. And it's just maddening. And then you got the woman over here saying, oh, look at him with that woman over there and that woman. And they're saying that. And they're on the phone talking to their girlfriends about them and talking to all this. And the kids are hearing all that. The kids are hearing it. And they can feel that energy that's going on. Even if you try to hide it. Because then your kid's going to say something about the other parent. And they go, oh, don't talk about them. No, they ain't this and they ain't that. And you're just going to have all these problems. All this just chaos going on. Because you can't control yourself. You can't manage yourself. And you can't have the one that you thought that you wanted, that you thought that you should have. You require, you demand. Because you put it out there on yourself of thinking that if I have these kids, then all of a sudden he'll care about me. And it's like, no, he still doesn't. Because he never did in the beginning. He wanted that over there. And you're fighting so hard to try to make that person think that everything's gonna work out when it's not. This woman is giving this guy 7 kids and 2 from his servant. 7 kids of her own. And he still is just looking at it like, my Rachel. My Rachel's the reason why I did all the work in the beginning. I got the seeds and ended up with you. And I didn't really want you, but I ended up having to take you because of just the way that the rules and everything was working at that time and the way it had to be. And just trickery and manipulation in reality. It's got nothing to do with no rules. It's just trickery that he ended up having to take her. And then he's put all his energy into the one that he really cared about. And then God remembered Rachel, and he listened to her and enabled her to conceive. She became pregnant and gave birth to Joseph. So after some time, a lot of time, I mean, this woman's had 6 kids, servants have had 4 kids, they've had all kinds of kids already at this moment, and she finally conceives the first time. And it's in her older of age, more likely, after all these kids have been going through and things have been working. So Rachel finally conceived and had a baby. And you know how excited this man's gonna be after seeing this baby come from this woman that he really, really loves, he really, really cared for. He worked 14 years of his life. He gave up 14 years of his life to work for a man that was changing his wages, treating him like crap, being ruthless to him, demeaning him, just not being fair with him in any sort of way, even though Jacob was doing everything to make his life better, and he did make his life better. He increased everything that he had. He brought nothing but greatness to him, and he was just doing so ruthless to him. And this guy worked 14 years for him, and then this woman finally gives him a kid. He's looking at this child like, this is the most amazing thing that could possibly be on the planet. And it's something that is challenging. It's very, very challenging when the other brothers finally see that and finally get a good understanding of that. And same with the daughter, because they see all this and they get a good understanding of it. They've been hearing about it, they've been watching it. And now when this boy comes, this woman is gonna be doing extra. So when this woman is loved and she's with the one that loves her and she's feeling very complete, she's gonna raise that kid up differently than the woman that is not loved, that can really see that. She's gonna kind of almost distance herself from her kids. They're kind of like a show, like a toy to, hey, look at here, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Whereas the woman that has the kid of Rachel, that has Joseph, she's gonna be very in tune with them. She's not looking at this kid like it's a handbag to her, an accessory to her. She's looking at it like it's hers, and she's loved, and she's appreciated, and she's desired. So she's gonna raise it in a completely different way. So it's gonna see the world completely differently. It's not gonna see the world as chaos and maddening. It's gonna see the world as very loving and peaceful. And it's something that, why yesterday I was speaking about how Joseph is and how he's a very compassionate person, because he was born and raised into that. And he was given that, and he was shown that because of the love that his mother and his father had. Not that he was conceived in a way of trying to force someone to appreciate me, trying to have a kid to please look at me because I have the kid now. What do you think's going on with the kid? The kid's just in the background. The kid's just not even in existence at that time. You're just trying to have more and more and more and more and more to get this guy to pay attention to you, as opposed to you paying attention to the children, realizing that that's the main thing that matters. This is an interesting story, because this is we got another one before this to go on to. Actually, there's 3 more before this. I had to do a little backtrack reading on that again. But there's 2 in specific that I still want to talk to that just keep amplifying on all of these. All of these just keep going and going and going. But when I was really looking at it, I was like, I want to start here and go backwards, because going forward can really kind of, I feel like, confuse things in some way. And then what happens? Something happens that is very tragic. Because in Genesis 35, we were going and living and cruising and moving and making some things happen. And Rachel got pregnant again. So she got pregnant for the 2nd time. And she gave birth. And she unfortunately passed away giving birth. And she gave birth to Benjamin. And Benjamin was the youngest son. And you can only imagine the greatness that came from this son. Because you can only imagine that even though his mother wasn't there, his father was there that really, really cared a whole lot about him, because he cared a whole lot about his mother. And he would do anything and everything for this woman, as he worked for over 20 years for a man to make sure that he can be able to figure out how to be able to get her to be his wife. And then to figure out how to be able to get away from him in a sort of slave type way, that he was working for him and couldn't get away. Because even when he tried to get away, he ran into a very sticky situation that this guy came and was ready to murder him in reality. You're taking my family away. And it's like, no, actually it's my family, and it's one that have created, and one that I raised, and one that I even worked for. I didn't even get this for free. I worked a large portion of my life to be able to get this and be able to have this here. So it's very interesting of how there's a difference between the two kids, and there's a difference between the two kids all solely based on what it is that each person was looking for from that person that they were around. That Rachel was in love with Jacob, and Jacob was very much in love with Rachel. So the kids are going to be of a difference, and then he's going to have a difference of, because she's not trying to show off. She's not trying to use Joseph as a way to like get him to pay attention to her. She doesn't really care about his attention because she's already got that. She already has it. She's already complete with that. She's already knowing and trusting in who God is and what God's all about, and knowing that he's there for her. And then she sees her husband of knowing that he's got her and he's good to go. But when this trickery came in and this other woman is around, this other woman is trying to figure out how to be able to get this guy to pay attention to me. How do I get him? Oh, if I have some kids, he'll pay attention to me. If I keep having some kids, then he'll for sure start to pay attention to me. Then we come to realize that no, that never, ever, ever happened. Because, well, that'll be a couple days to maybe a week away of talking about all these 12 boys and the path that they all have taken and what has gone down with them and what has happened to them in the middle of why there was so much confrontation. Because in reality, the 10 boys that came from, and especially the 6 boys that came from Leah, personal Leah, her personal kids, not her servants' kids, they all say the blessings when Jacob was doing his blessings for his kids when he was getting old and he was passing away. You could tell which ones were his kids as opposed to which ones were the servants' kids and which ones were Rachel's kids and which ones were Leah's kids based on the blessings. You could just tell, and then you could tell what kind of lifestyle that they had growing up based on what it is that he predicted and foresaw was going to happen with everybody. And it's very tragic, I'm going to say, because the kids ended up in strife, ended up in chaos, ended up in rage, ended up in anger, ended up in all these things, all because a woman was trying so hard to be liked, be wanted, be desired, as opposed to just realizing that you're just not. And that may be hard, because it's not like he had a choice. He had to do something and make it happen. And he didn't have a choice. And in reality, the most, I'm going to say, unfortunate thing about this is he worked 7 years and this girl still didn't get married. So she must not have been a desirable person that anybody else wanted. That he was like, I could trick this guy into doing it. And he's a really nice, likable guy that he won't say no to this. And that's just very tragic. That I don't know why. I don't know why this goes on today and this happens right now. I don't know why some people have it in them that just because you've been around and been around meaning being alive, that you have the rights to something that you shouldn't have, that you shouldn't be around, that you shouldn't be trying so hard to be able to get, because you're not ready for it. And if you're with somebody that you're thinking, if only I do this to get them to pay attention to me, I'm telling you, you're struggling right now. You're hurting right now. And you're not only hurting yourself, you're going to damage your kids. And you're going to put your kids into a situation that's going to be very, very hard for them to figure out how to be able to get out of. And that's just, it's to me, irresponsible like no other. And I lived a life of living irresponsible myself. But at the same time, my irresponsibleness wasn't just only me, myself doing. It's others that are also doing on the same way, on the same playing field here. That me being, that's a perfect word, very ignorant, and very childish and very small and very insecure feeling, that I would accept and allow some things to think that someone could just do something and then I would finally pay attention to you because you had that. Realizing that that's just not the way this world works. And I lived that way for so long. Until just recently I've realized that I don't want to say fault, who that fault, but it's not for me to just accept that somebody wants to do something to try and be liked and be loved, as opposed to just being loved because of who you are. You're not going to be loved because of what you have or what you can even provide, more than just who you are and what you are. And we're running into a very sticky situation in life today of people thinking that, oh, I got this job, so that makes me better. Or I've got this and it makes me better. Or I could do that and it makes me better. As opposed to just looking at, who are you? Who are you? What are you all about? What are you doing? What are you thinking about when you're going to bed and laying down and going to sleep, taking a shower? You're sitting on a toilet when you're waking up in the morning, when you're eating your food. What are your thoughts like? What's going on? Because if you think that your value comes from what it is that you do, I'm telling you, you're struggling right now. You need to realize that your value is just who you are. And who you are should be more than well than enough, especially for a woman on this planet. Dudes, I understand that as men, we got to do some crazy stuff, crazy madness out there. And someone would say to me that, Mark, today that's not true. That's different, and we don't need to worry about that anymore. And I'm going to say that you're sadly mistaken. Just take all the guys away, and this world is going to struggle. No, it's going to fail. That's exactly what it'll do. It'll just straight up fail. It's not going to struggle. It's going to fail. And it's something that is just devastating, I'm going to say, on why and how we're trying to change some stuff today. Where I'm going to say that it's not a matter of what you have to be able to make sure that you can be able to have a successful life in the future. It's a matter of what it is that you have, who you are inside, what's your character all about. What happens when things get hard? Where do you go? What happens when things are good? What happens when you didn't get that you wanted and it just gets stripped from you? How are you? And that's a lot that we need to really pay attention to and focus on. Because if you're thinking that if only I could do this for him, then he'll like me, you're set up for failure instantly. You're instantly set up for failure. You're not going to gain anything. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to do anything. I saw an Instagram post today that just it saddened me. Seeing that it had 1.7 million likes on it and like 200,000 or 300,000 comments on it, on a guy talking about if this person needs constant reassurance every day. Like, do you like me? Do you care about me? Am I okay? He's saying that you should keep giving into that reassurance. And I'm going to tell you right now that is 100% false. That person should not be in considering relationships because they're questioning everything and they're not sure. If you need that constant reassurance, it's because you don't know your own self, who you are. You don't have confidence in your own self. You don't have the ability in your own self. You don't know anything about you, your own self. And that's the concept of the story today. The concept of how Leah felt so insignificant to this guy. Like, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about me the way he cares about her. It's like, yes, because he never desired to. He never wanted to. He never cared to. He got tricked into it too. And for a person to be tricked into something, he's never going to really care because you're going to have to constantly you can't do anything. And that's where we're running into a situation today of someone thinking that they could do something to get someone to like them. No, if they don't care about you, they don't care about you. If they don't want you, they don't want you. If you think you had a fun time for a little bit and I could bring that back and that person left, they're not coming back. They don't want you. It don't matter what you could bring, what you provide, because it's going to be good for 5 minutes, 10 weeks, 10 months, 5 years even. And then it's going to go right back to nothingness because they never wanted you to begin with in the beginning. They never wanted you. They never cared about you. So stop trying to force yourself to just keep doing more and more and more and having more kids and doing all this and going over here and doing all that, thinking that person's going to want you. They don't want you. They don't want you. And in reality, they more likely never will. And it'll never be a peaceful way. And then when you're especially introducing children into that matter, you're making it a worse off because then your kids are going to end up hating you in the end. Your kids are going to just be just very disappointed with you in the end. Your kids are going to just not want to have anything to deal with you in the end. Realizing that all you were doing was manipulation. All you're doing was games. All you're doing was trying to get attention for your own self and using your kids to try to get people to look at you. And that's going to be very, very disastrous in the end for you because you're going to be all alone. And your kids are just going to leave you like, well, Mom, clearly you didn't care about me. You just used me to try to make that person mad. You used me to try to get that person to see you. You used me to try to get that person to try to just react so that they can have a harder time in life just so that you can laugh upon them. You didn't actually care about me. You just used me. That's how a child is going to feel. And for me personally, I didn't thank God for me, my own personal life. I didn't grow up and have to feel that way. I grew up and saw that my mom was there and she really cared about me a lot. And I grew up and saw my daddy was there and he really cared about me a lot. I would say that there's other people in the family that didn't care about me at all, that didn't want me around and didn't understand why I was even alive. But that never affected me because I had both of my parents there to see me. But I do know that in my life, how my kids have grown up and how my kids have seen, they've seen some very, very sticky things, some very, very challenging stuff. Of realizing that I don't think my parents are here for me. I don't think my parents care about me. I don't think even either of them cares about me. That's one thing that I'll say right here, right up front is I definitely care a whole lot about my kids. But the whole situation, how it all is, it's I'm not going to play the game of trying to make a woman feel good because of the child. And then having my child be used in a way so that I have to move and react for you to be validated and feel good about your own self. Like, I'm not going to play that game. So unfortunately for me, it's a very sticky situation. And it's a situation of this book, of this Bible, of this story, of Rachel and Leah having issues and having problems, of Jacob having to figure out how to dance around all this, how to be able to figure out how he can still keep on being good and doing good and making things happen and get through it. And it's something that's just, it's challenging. Because no matter how many children that woman has, I'm telling you, he's like, those are my kids. But woman, I don't want you. I don't want you. And he just didn't. And it just is what it is. And it's something that is challenging. And a lot of times there's a lot of guys out here, and not just my own self, they got married that didn't want to. You got forced into it. You got pressured into it. You had no other choice but to get into it. And that's what happened to Jacob. He had no choice but to get into it. He had no choice. He wanted to just go a different way, but he didn't have a choice. He had to take her to be able to do the next steps that he wanted to do. He could have walked away and let it all go, but he couldn't. So he got tricked and forced into it. And that's 100% way that I feel personally in my life, that I got forced into something that I didn't want. I didn't want it. I didn't want it, but I was forced into it. And thinking that, oh, you could just have more and more and more, and then I'll finally care about you. And no, you realize, like, no, that's just not going to happen. That didn't happen. And there's no way that's ever going to happen in the future, and there's no way that happened in the time that it was in. I just got tricked into it, got manipulated into it. And I would hope that more people would start reading this book to realize, to get away from problems. This book is, I'm telling you, you don't need no psychology books. You don't need no psychology education. You don't need no counseling stuff. You don't need none of that. You just need a good person to be able to understand, interpret, read the Bible to you. And then you start taking over and do it your own self. And then you start doing it your own self, you're gonna start to get really good insight about what's going on. Because for me, it's a matter of making sure that future kids I have, I'm gonna be teaching them day one, right away, what to do, how to be, how to function, how to be respectful, how to make some things happen. How to be able to live a nice, clean, healthy, happy life. And not have to get into these problems. And just read these bedtime stories right here, man. Bedtime stories. And making sure that you're paying attention to what you need to do. And your son's gonna say to you, it's like, that's crazy. Why would he do that? And he's gonna say to himself, like, Dad, I'm never gonna do that. And I'm like, thank God. And that's why we got this Bible, to be able to teach it to our kids. So that we can say, like, yeah, you don't want to end up in that, do you? Really? I know you don't. These people right here are already going through it. So let's stay away from that. That's something that I would hope more people would. I was gonna say, man, I would get through a whole video without that donkey chanting. And there he goes, right there. I still can't get it done. I'll get it done one day. But with that, man, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, and move on with the remainder of my day of getting into more deep thought about. I'm not saying that I wish I would have known all of this as a child and someone would have taught it to me, because then I wouldn't be able to have the stories and the life and just the background that I have to be able to see when things are going crazy, see when stuff is just not working right for people. But at the same time, that I wish I would have knew all these stories as a 5-year-old kid, so that I would have been able to make better decisions in my life and been able to see when it is that things are not going the way that I should need it to go, should desire it to go. Realizing when someone is trying to manipulate you, realize when someone is trying to use you, realize when someone is trying to take something from you, as opposed to just wanting to work with you, to build with you with what you have. That's something for me that I've really come to realize just this past couple of months, of finding people that are willing to build with me and don't want to just see what I have and just come and try to take it. I'm tired of people trying to take what I have. I want someone to see that, like, I like what you're doing, Mark. That's cool, man. Let me help you out with this over here. I said, cool, then let me help you out with that. Okay, then let me help you out with that. And then just go back and forth. As opposed to you coming into my life thinking that I'm gonna take all his happiness away. I'm gonna take his peace away. I'm gonna take his joy away. I see that he's living a nice life out there. Everything's so peaceful, so calm, so relaxing. So it's chill today because I built it to be that way. It didn't start off this way. It was chaos when it was absolute chaos, but that was me. And then I got out of that chaos and I see the niceness out here. I want someone to come here and amplify that niceness, not come here and start to just beat everything down and try to destroy everything that I'm doing. Try to get in the middle of it all. Trying to just be ruthless to my dogs when I tell you not to be. Be ruthless with my animals when I tell you not to be. Just come here and see the peace and say, man, how can we make this more peaceful? I said, dang, that's nice. I like that piece, and you added a full to it. Let's do that. Let's make that happen. That's the information that comes from this Bible, the more and more that I keep on reading from it and realizing that there's, in reality, two kinds of people out here. There's a person that wants to take from you, and there's a person that wants to bring some to help you out. And it's a matter of us to be able to figure out the difference between the two. And then at the same time, some people are deceitful, that they have these masks on and they have these hidden agendas in them, that they act like they want to bring more to you. But in reality, they're just putting in a little bit of here, a little bit of there to try to destroy you in the end. And that's where this Bible really starts to bring you that discernment. That's where God really starts to uplift and bring something great to your life, to allow you to be able to see that. And if you don't see it right away, you're going to find out sooner than it starts to be able to actually change you and just destroy your life. And that's the power of what I'm going to say, who God is and what God is all about. That I ran myself into sticky situations 2 times this past year. That each time I was able to get out of it sooner than sooner than it could ever possibly harm me in any sort of way. But they always come in just looking so sweet and so nice and so calm and so genuine and just so amazing. But then you come to realize in the end, it's like, no, actually, all you wanted to do is try and just take and take and take until I had none, and then you would have none, and then you would just dump me and just move on to the next thing to try and keep doing that again. I'm so blessed to be able to have the understanding of knowing that God is able to help me out so much, and not just a way that I think that we're as a society today struggling with, and that He's going to keep you healthy and not be sick, and He's going to bring money to you. He's going to do, no, God is way more than that, people. He's able to do something absolutely amazing that only you're going to be able to see it once you start to believe and start to pray to Him. Thank you.